Hello everyone, and thank you very much for joining us today for a how-to guide for proactive customer success with Paul Philp, CEO of Amity. Just a few housekeeping notes before we get started. Feel free to join the conversation online with the hashtag ProactiveCS. Mention us at Amity. We'll be sending the recording at the end of the webinar along with the slides. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Paul Philp.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming out for the webinar today. Matthew, thanks for that introduction and taking care of getting the webinar up and running. I'm thrilled to... Okay, today I'm going to talk about a framework for moving from reactive to proactive customer success, and talk a little bit about why that's so hard. If you cast your gaze back onto the history of customer success, you could look back as far as 1995 and see Concur. I think history generally acknowledges that Concur was the very first SaaS company. They had an on-premise product that they put up into what we now call the cloud and charged a subscription fee for it in 1995. But other than the delivery model changing, nothing else changed in their business model. And so for the next 10 years or so, as the first generation of SaaS products came onto the market, the way we managed our customers, the way we related to our customers, really didn't change. And I can remember back to some of the SaaS companies that I worked for in this period of time, and we didn't have anything that resembled customer success at all. And, we had technical support, and we had implementation, and we had ProServe, but the delivery model had changed, but the customer service model hadn't changed at all. And then in 2004, roughly, Mark Benioff at Salesforce came up with the Customer for Life program, and that you could really, if you're looking for a big bang date for customer success, it's really that event. For all of the reasons that we're all focused on customer success today, Salesforce put in place the Customers for Life program to retain their customers, to prevent revenue churn, and to maximize their upselling capabilities, upselling revenue. And that's really where it began. And then fast forward to today, 10 years later, and every SaaS company that we talk to has a customer success team of some flavor. And it's just really unusual anymore to run across a SaaS business that doesn't have a customer success organization of some sort. And most customers, not most, all customer success organizations look a little bit like this Rube Goldberg machine in the diagram. And the customer success is largely manual and ad hoc. Even if you're using automated communications, the process for putting that together is still largely manual and ad hoc. And that's the state of the industry today. So, over the past 5 years, we've all come into the customer success profession, and we've built our first generation of customer success business processes, and they look something like that Rube Goldberg machine. And the thing that all customer success teams have in common is the aspiration to be proactive. I've yet to run across a customer success team or a VP of customer success or a CEO who goes, yeah, no, we want to be more reactive. We want to spend more time in the inbox. And firefighting, love it, and that's just not the state of the world. Everybody is aspirationally looking to be proactive. The secret is that nobody has really achieved proactive customer success. And one of the reasons is because we think of proactive like the way we think of north, and we really should think about it as east. So what that means is if you head out on a journey and you head north, you will eventually get there. The North Pole, that's as far north as you can go, and you're at the end of your journey. If you head out east, there's always further east to go. So no matter how far east you go, there's further east still left to go. And the journey to being proactive is much more like heading east. It's just an ongoing journey and ongoing process, ongoing investment, and you're never really there. Right? Okay, so what are the challenges that are preventing people from achieving proactive customer success? This is a short list of what we hear from our prospects and our customers. I think in the last 4 years at Amity, we've talked to somewhere between 500 and 1,000 customer success teams, and this is what they tell us gets in their way of being proactive. So anywhere from lack of customer visibility to lack of visibility into their own work, ad hoc and continuously changing processes. I don't know if you've noticed, but every now and then our customer success people can get interrupted by their customers. Firefighting, no data, no time, inbox driven, no methodology for priority. All of these things are antithetical to being proactive in customer success. And the reality is, these are the challenges that customer success professionals throughout the industry are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And, so that's why, getting to proactive feels a lot like pushing that rock up the hill. You're going to actually let it go one day and it's going to fall down. You're going to have to push it all the way back up. So right now we're all Sisyphean heroes pushing the rock up the hill on our way to being proactive. And to help our customers with that particular challenge, a little while ago we started to put a framework together to help think about the transformation from reactive to proactive. But before I go into that framework, I really want to emphasize what I said earlier. This is the boat we're all in. And whenever I talk to a customer success team, there's a tendency to think that everyone else is doing it right and they're doing it wrong. And I just like to point out that, no, that's not the case. Everyone's struggling with at least, a third of the issues in that list, if not the whole list. Okay, before going in, I'm going to see if there's any questions. Okay, no questions yet. So if you look down to the bottom of your Ready Talk widget, you'll notice a little chat window there. That's where you and I get to talk. And I love talking with you because then I get to shut up and you get to hear, somebody other than, this boombox voice, although I will be reading questions. Okay, so ask me questions along the way, and I'll just keep asking for questions until I get so annoying that someone actually asks questions. Okay, so if you think about the journey to being proactive, we've boiled the issues down to a framework of 5 themes, if you like. You have to be working on your ability to prioritize your customers, organize your work, categorize your customers, automate your processes, whether that's just automating getting data or sending automatic QBRs out to your customer, and then the ability to inform yourself about what's happening with your progress, with your customer's progress, with your team's progress. So this is the framework that we've been working with internally for a while at Amity: prioritize, organize, categorize, automate, and information. And if anyone knows the right grammatical way of saying informaticize yourself, please let me know, because I promise to never put that word on the slide. Okay, so let's go through each of the themes one by one, and then let's talk about how they work together. And I'm going to add a sixth theme, superpower, to the conversation, because this is the foundation, and that's the ability to do something iteratively. And all of your progress on the journey to being proactive is going to be done iteratively, and trial, error, and learn. Start simple is the only way to go, and this is how you get to a solution that actually fits into your business. So being iterative in each theme is really essential. Okay, so superpower number one, prioritize. Which customer is most important right now? And so this can be relatively simple. This can be relatively complex. This can be relatively algorithmic. But we're constantly deciding that this customer is more important than that customer right now. And being right in those decisions is really critical to getting the foundation of proactivity in place. And so this is a key capability or a key theme, and it's usually more complex than the standard 2x2 grid that we've all used and we've all seen. This customer is worth more revenue than that customer, so they're more important. But it isn't always that way. You may have a customer that is worth a little bit less revenue, but who you can have a big impact on, and that customer may be more important than the larger customer right now. And so the job in prioritization is to be constantly asking the question, what's important, what's more important right now? And there's lots of different ways of doing that, and lots of different recipes, but there's two different styles. The first is static, and a static prioritization scheme is just one where you say, the enterprise customer worth more than $1 million a year is tier one, and the enterprise customer worth $500,000 to $1 million is tier two, and on down the list. And you always just use that scheme for prioritization, and up to having very complex dynamic rules that judge your impact to help the customer, your ability to help the customer, and the customer's ability to get value from the interaction with you, their need, and of course the business value of the customer overall. So the first theme is prioritization, and starting with static rules and moving to dynamic rules over time. Okay. So the second theme is to organize our work. And I don't know what your experience is, but our experience is absolutely the number one work organization tool that the SaaS companies we talk to use for customer success is Gmail or Office 365 or Intercom, something within inbox. And it could be a chat bot, and the customer success people are spending a lot of time in their inbox. And an inbox is a great way of organizing your customer communications, but it's a god-awful management tool. In my case, if you're not on my first page of email, you're probably not going to exist anymore until the weekend when I clean up my inbox. It's a horrible habit, but that is my habit. And so inboxes are our management tool today, and that really contributes to the sense of firefighting and being out of control. And there's a couple of flavors of tools that you can put in place that will do a better job than your inbox. The first is a task management tool. In the diagram here, I'm showing Trello. Trello is a great, simple task manager. So it helps you pull the tasks out of your inbox. And the other layer of tool is workflow management. The ability to string tasks together or process steps together in an order that you need to follow to produce a particular outcome. And workflows can be really simple personal workflows. I'm going to check all of the tasks that haven't moved forward in 7 days every morning when I come into work. There's a personal workflow, but it could be a complex workflow going back and forth between the onboarding team and the implementation team and the ProServe team, and so it could be multi-team and multi-department as well. So a good task manager and a good workflow manager are great ways to move yourself out of the inbox as your management tool. Okay, so at this point, I'm now pointing my finger accusingly down at the chat window at the bottom of the Ready Talk widget. Eventually, I'll go on strike, but let's hope it doesn't get to that point. So if you have any questions, or you just want to shut me up for a minute and stop hearing me complain about people not asking questions, and just pump a question in down at the bottom. Okay, so we've talked through 2 of the 5 themes of proactive customer success. Let's move on to the next one. And the next one is what I think is the most important theme, the most important superpower you need to develop to be proactive, and that's the ability to categorize your customers. And if you take a look at the pyramid on the left, I'm sure almost all of us have worked for a company that has had a target market pyramid that looks something like that, with big global companies up in the blue at the top, and SMBs and individuals in the red at the bottom, and the steps in between. This is a great way of categorizing your customers if you're in marketing, and it's a great way of categorizing your customers if you're in sales, but it's a horrendous way of categorizing your customers if you're in customer success. There are certainly service delivery commitments that each tier has, and you'll use this kind of segmentation for that. But for really telling you how to manage and what you need to do for a customer, it's just too static and really doesn't give you any insight into what action to take. And so a huge part of being proactive is starting to develop a language about your customers, and a language about their risk levels, a language about their use cases, language about their journey, language about their ROI and their outcomes. And the richer the language that you have about your customers, the more power you have. Because if you can't see it, If you don't have the words to talk about it, if you don't have the words to see it, you can't do anything about it. And that's why this particular lens is so important, is the richer your language for categorizing your customers, the more power you have and the more fine-grained control you can have in your automation and in your actions. Okay, we have a couple questions. Thank you. Somebody had to take a customer call. I get that. Yes, we are providing reportings. If marketing and sales are categorizing customers in a different way than customer success teams are categorizing customers, what's the common segmentation language that marketing and customer success can talk about? And it's a great question. I'm going to get to the different levels of solving these issues over time, but it's a very real question, and the entry, the first level of answer is that you're going to use marketing's language because they don't understand your language at first. And you're going to develop a deeper vocabulary and more words to describe your customers than marketing is. And they're not going to understand you, so you're going to have to translate into their language. And, and that's going to be that way for a while until they start getting excited by being able to understand the use cases and the progression of use cases and the value proposition of the use cases and that kind of thing. Okay. That kind of answer is funny because I'm in marketing. I'm in Canada, so you can't attack me. No. Okay, good. Our company recently defined a set of terms used in classifying our work and tasks. I think you just said the more language, the better. Is there a sweet spot on size of vocabulary to be used regarding customers, or am I misunderstanding something? No, it's a perfect question, and the sweet spot is if having a particular vocabulary, a particular word, doesn't create an opening for action, then you don't need that word. I know I'm sounding pretty geeky here, but there's no point having a 3-tier churn risk indicator if you only have one way of mitigating churn risk. You really only need one word. Those two other words are really just noise because you can't act on them. Okay. It's a given, another question, it's a given that it is important to segment or categorize customers, and I'm wondering, when do you think that the emerging function of customer success will begin to understand that there is more of a need to categorize and segment the different kinds of customer success approaches that are needed based on company and industry phase? Yeah, I think people are grappling with that today. I had to grapple with that issue today when putting together my presentation slides, just deciding what level of maturity and experience in customer success are the people on this presentation, on this webinar, going to have, and what language can I assume. So in a brand new discipline like customer success, we're always going to be learning each other's language as it evolves. And I'd like to explain the little word diagram there. I was actually going to debunk the famous aphorism that North American people have, most English-speaking people have 10 or 12 words to describe snow, and Eskimos have 50 words. That's, I've been hearing that story my whole life. turns out that it's not ain't necessarily so. There are absolutely Eskimos that have 50 words. There are Eskimos that have 20 to 30 words. But the absolute champ, beyond question, are the Scots. The Scots have 421 words for describing snow, and so they have 100 words for describing the way snow falls, 100 words for the way it sits on the ground, and so if you're repeating the words in snow story, you have to credit the Scots and their 421 words, and I'll leave it up to you to figure out what type of snow slag and schmore are. Okay. So superpower number 3, theme number 3 is categorizing your customers at a really fine-grained level. Superpower number 4 is the ability to automate your workflows, automate your processes. And the idea here is that computers are really, really good at doing repetitive tasks. And people are really, really bad at doing repetitive tasks. But people are really, really good at being creative, at demonstrating leadership, at being able to relate to other people. And so that's the way, as human beings, as people, we create value. So we constantly want to be using the dumb power of computers to take away our repetitive work, so that we will spend more of our time doing the things that really create value for our customers, and that's being problem solving and creating and leading our customers in the direction that we want them to go in. And one way of thinking of that is computers do the manual punching work and we do the coaching work. That's one framework of understanding that. And by automate, this can be anything from capturing email invitations in your email stream and putting those into your calendar without having to go through that 6 times back and forth, to an interdepartmental workflow and email system that is very complex and has lots of different projects that are automated. So it could be really personal and simple, and cross-departmental and complex, but a really essential part of being proactive is getting rid of the non-strategic work and letting your local robots take care of that. Okay. No questions? Okay. So the fifth theme, the fifth superpower of being proactive, this is obviously a big topic, but getting yourself informed, finding out what's happening with your customers, finding out what's happening with yourself, finding out what's happening with your team, and building up some reports, some dashboards, and a command center that's really letting you know what's happening with your customers and what's happening in your overall universe. And again, the test for how much you need here is what questions do you need answered, and what action are you going to take based on the answer that you get. So having a great example is the fuel gauge in your car. You look at the fuel gauge and you keep driving and you look and it's getting closer and closer to E, and you keep driving and you keep driving, and then if you're anything like me, you don't pull off and get gas until that little red indicator goes on. So the gauge isn't shaping my action at all. That little red indicator is what's shaping my action. And about every 5 years or so, that algorithm doesn't work. Okay. Okay, so those are the 5 themes: prioritize, categorize, organize, automate, and information. And all of those are ongoing tasks. It's not that you're going to go out tomorrow and, now I've got my prioritization system in place and that's the way it's going to be forever and I'm taken care of. No, you're going to make one small step and you're going to make progress in that area. And then what's going to happen is you're going to find that the way that you organize work now is going to have to change because you've changed the way you prioritize your customers. And when you change the way you organize your work, you're going to need to change the way you categorize your customers. And if you want to change the way you categorize your customers, you're going to need some more information about your customers. And that process of solving one problem leading to a need for another solution, that's the path, that's the journey to proactivity. And it's how do you finish a journey of 1,000 miles? One step at a time. Okay, but it's not all that simple. So those are the 5 functions, and you need to be investing in those five themes on an ongoing basis to get to proactivity and be continuously improving in all of those areas. But there is an entirely different dimension, and really important to focus on is that each of those areas, each of those themes impacts you at a personal level. So you have a personal workflow, you have a personal dashboard, but it also impacts you at the team level, at the department level, at the company level. It could be at the product line level. And so these things are all happening at the same time. And a great example came up in this morning's webinar for Europe. Someone brought up the idea of sales and customer success not always being fully aligned. I've heard rumors that can happen. I know it's not happening in your company, but it does happen in some companies. And that's a company level prioritization and categorization challenge. And it's going to be very, very hard to be proactive if sales is selling a value proposition that the product doesn't deliver, or it doesn't operate in the way that sales promises that it operates. And so there's an example of solving those themes at a company-wide level. Okay, so the real challenge looks like this. You've got five categories: prioritize, organize, categorize, automate, and information. And you need to be to get to proactivity. You're going to be constantly improving at the personal, team, departmental, and company-wide level in each of those areas. Okay, so does that make sense? So I'm pointing at the screen again. Worked last time, so let's see if it works again this time. Any questions about that? Any comments? Any challenges? Any yeah buts? I'll just have a drink of water. This ends with me calling your name out, by the way, just so you know. Okay, so let's move on. And great, perfect. Question just came in. I'm still struggling a little bit with the categories, so let's pop back there. And yeah, so definitely I'll give you a few examples of categories. So typical categories are, you start with the marketing categories of vertical market or company size or geographical territory, and then you start to develop a set of new categories out of that, and certainly one that a lot of customer success teams will focus on is the customer journey. So what is the customer journey and where is this customer on that customer journey? So that's one classification of customers, one categorization of customers. And then this is where things like health scores come into play. So a simple categorization is this account has a red health score, this account has a green health score, this account has a yellow health score, and then you can then turn that into this account has a high churn risk, this account has a low churn risk, and we have customers that calculate multi-dimensional health scores, 4-dimensional health scores for all of their customers every night, and then take those health scores and generate a benchmark index to benchmark all of their customers against their peer groups. And so in each health score, their customers get they're in the top quartile, bottom quartile, middle quartile, and that's another categorization is a top quartile, bottom quartile, and those are, by the way, those are an amazing way to calculate a health score. If someone is consistently in the bottom quartile of their peer group, or if somebody was in the top quartile and is now in the third quartile, that's really valuable information, and you probably want to understand pretty clearly what's happening with that customer. Okay, so those are a few examples. So we do have some webinars on our website about customer journey and journey mapping, and if you go to the resources section of the website, they'll be in there. We did a series of webinars with Kia Poom on the customer journey, and all of those are still up. Okay. So did that help with the categorization? Great. Okay. Any other questions? Great. Thank you. Oh, okay. Here's a question. Follow-up on categorization language combined with information. We have a system where we track our work across the team. 1,000 types of tasks were whittled down to about 20 standardized for the department. That probably makes sense. Can you speak to the balance between being general enough for data analysis and specific enough to be meaningful? And very likely that 1,000 types of tasks are not going to be particularly helpful because there's going to be a lot of noise in that. And the definition of noise is a piece of information that you don't know what action to take on it. A health score moved from 77 to 78. What are you going to do about that? A health score moved from green to red over the last week. You're probably going to do some triage. So 1,000 is probably going to be noisy, so it's you're looking for a set of categories, a set of terms for describing your tasks that give you openings for action and tell you what the next action that you might want to consider taking on this particular task. And if it's not if it's not helping you make decisions and take different actions, it's a candidate for being noise. Okay? Yeah. Oop. So we just had a little technical glitch with the ReadyTalk server. It looks like we're back up and running. A comment from somebody, another great way to categorize customers is cohort. Absolutely. Did they sign up in April or May or June? Tells you a lot about the customer. Okay, so we've talked about the framework of 5 themes and the levels at which you have to invest in those themes and get better in those themes, and how they can interact. Then I want to tell you about building a superpower toolkit. And so obviously we're in the customer success automation platform business, so we think those are the super coolest, best, absolutely must have tool to manage everything. No question in my mind about that. But they're not the only tools. And so you can do a lot of useful work organization in the early days and customer categorization by just putting sticky notes on a whiteboard. And we love walking into a potential customer and seeing sticky notes on a whiteboard, because that tells us they've done some of their initial thinking about categorization and organization. I'm sure everybody on this call at one time or another has used Excel to categorize and organize their work and their customers. And I'm sure a bunch of people have done the same thing with a Salesforce or a CRM dashboard. For the really data-driven, data-intensive people on the call, I'm sure that you've used a PostgreSDB or a Looker kind of BI product in the past. And then if you want to pull it all together, a customer success automation tool like Amity or the others on the market are very, very useful. Okay, another question came in. Can you give us some examples of how you automate your processes in the early days of your product to maximize the value of your team? Yeah, to be honest, we didn't do a lot of automation in the early days. Our implementation and onboarding processes were pretty labor intensive, and until we had run through the first 30 or 40 implementations, we didn't really see what patterns there were for us to start breaking it down. So I think starting to work manually is so you can learn the patterns that you're going to be dealing with is an absolutely necessary step. And but at this point, our customer success managers are doing really amazing things with their task management, because it's not unusual for one of our customer success managers to have 20 fairly large open items, tasks with our customers at any given time, and sometimes it's in their court, and sometimes it's in the customer's court, and sometimes it's in our DevOps team's court. And but the customer success manager has to be able to proactively manage that, so that if DevOps forgets about it, that they get a reminder. And so we've done some very interesting things, and by we I mean our customer success team has done some very interesting things in the area of managing tasks and open tasks, and catching the ones that stall, and even if they stall with the customer, getting an alert about that and solving that problem. So that's one area where we've done a lot of work. Okay, another question. Given that many companies start manually, have you defined phases or milestones where it is appropriate to add more automation and standardized playbooks? Yeah, so so the answer to that question really depends on your business model. If you're selling $1 million a year enterprise software, you'll probably be manual for a very, very long time. If you're selling $25 a month, software to an individual accountant, you'll probably want to automate really, really quickly. So it's really the level of touch and the value of a customer that determines how fast and how broadly you automate. So usually the heuristic is you keep doing it manually until you get surprised enough that it's worth investing in the automation. Okay. Yeah, number of customers or amount of revenue is a trigger for that. We've seen it all over the place, and then it depends on the size of your team. So it's, unfortunately, it's, keep doing it manually until it breaks down, which is going to, always painful when the manual process breaks down. But that'll tell you that it's time to automate in what area that you need to automate. Okay, so I'm going to take just a couple minutes and introduce everybody to Amity. Amity is a superpower toolkit for proactive customer success. I promise I only use that slide for this particular webinar, but that's exactly what we are. And we recognize that the journey from reactive to proactive customer success is a lot harder than it seems at first. And we partner with our customers to accelerate their time in that journey and allow them to make progress really, really quickly. And so we have our product, the Amity Customer Success Automation Platform, and our guide, so that's our Customer Success Manager, who have been down that path a number of times with our customers. And we bring those together to partner with our customers to accelerate that process. And when we start working with our customers, the situation looks always like the situation on the left, just a different collection of tools and data sources. And we work with customers that have from 3 to 5 to 12 different data sources. So we pull all of that data together and automate that process so that you can focus on renewals and upselling and retention. And our intelligent agent technology will automate the data collection and analysis and automation for you, so you can focus on that area where you make where you create value. Okay. Okay, and the last slide is to think about Amity's intelligent agent technology. There's really 3 elements to it. Listen. So we have sensors that listen to various aspects of your relationship with your customers. Understand. So, automatic insights and rule-driven insights let you understand what's happening with your customer, and then the ability to act based on those insights. And so to send automatic emails, record and track meetings, schedule NPS surveys, launch a triggered workflow. Amity does all of that based on the insights and the rules in our intelligent agents. So Amity simplifies your life and lets you make the next step in your journey to being proactive. Okay, so there's a couple of minutes left. Any questions? 2 minutes. Oh, here, someone has a question. Oh, a compliment. That's so much better than a question. Thank you. Okay. Okay, well, I appreciate the kind words from people. Thank you very much for coming out today. And I know that a framework webinar like this can be challenging. And I'd be happy to answer any of your questions through email afterwards. So if you have a question, wake up in the middle of the night and go, what did he mean by automation? Just drop me an email. I'd be happy to answer your question. And if you'd like to have a conversation about how intelligent agents at Amity can help you accelerate your time to proactivity, drop us a line. We'd be happy to start that conversation too. Thanks everyone for coming out. And we appreciate your time. We appreciate all your questions. And we look forward to seeing you in our next webinar. And our next webinar is, I don't know, turn it over to Matthew and he'll tell you about the next webinar.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, so the next webinar is called The Key to CSM Success, specifically focusing on user adoption. And we have partnered with Tritons Consulting, specifically Jason Whitehead, who's the CEO, for this great webinar. It's going to be happening in a little less than 2 weeks, so on June 28th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're looking forward to having you there.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Please stand by.